Welcome to Dairy Delivery by the Dairy Star. On today's episode, we start in Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, where Brian and Jill Nelson have transitioned an old milking parlor into a cheese facility at Compass Rose Creamery. Next, we visit with Jake and Nick Stodick as they become the fourth generation to operate their family farm. Our third conversation today is with Dick Beardsley, who grew up helping on his grandfather's dairy farm and finished second in the Boston Marathon in 1982 in a contest nicknamed the Duel in the Sun. We wrap up today's episode with Olivia Lulich, the egg teacher and FFA advisor at Viroqua Area Schools, and the 2026 Miss Wisconsin USA. You're listening to Dairy Delivery. All dairy, all the time. And this episode is sponsored by Greenwood Silo. You can't fix something until you identify what's not working. At Greenwood Silo, they've been identifying what's not working in forage for the last 20 years and creating solutions for the everyday farmer. Greenwood Silo is solving how harvest store silos impact your feeding program with their Green Line H-Series unloader. Imagine an unloader with the capacity to move 1,800 pounds of haylage in 30 seconds. That's innovation from Greenwood Silo. Visit greenwoodsilo.com to see the future of silo unloaders. Together, they can demonstrate your commitment to sustainability and eco-friendliness, enabling you to make a positive impact while reducing your carbon footprint as a responsible farmer. Visit greenwoodsilo.com for more information. I'm Dan Walker.
And I'm Michelle Stangler, and we're your reporters with Dairy Star, bringing you the latest in the dairy industry, including hearing from farmers across the Midwest and beyond. Well, it's already the end of June. Next month, it's National Ice Cream Month. Do you have a favorite flavor, Dan?
Ooh, ice cream. Yeah, anything chocolate, peanut butter, caramel. If you can mix those three flavors, or I maybe kind of isolate one or two at a time. If I can get a chocolate peanut butter one and get caramel on top, that's my go-to. Yeah. What about you?
For me, it's anything berry. I really enjoy a strawberry ice cream or anything that can really have that lightness and freshness taste to it. So, certainly, I love ice cream. I'm looking forward to celebrating all month long, but it's also the 4th of July coming up. Any fun plans for America's 250th birthday?
For the 4th of July, we usually do get a family together. We get barbecue or have a cookout or something. And it was always something that's been nice that even when we were living out of state, we'd always end up coming back right around this time of year. So we'd have kind of keep that family tradition of gathering together and hanging out. And I think we're going to go down to Iowa to see some of my wife's family, and then maybe get over to my family during the at night to see some fireworks and see what's kind of going on with that. But we always used to do the town fireworks, and I had our spot kind of picked out every year, and that's always a fun tradition to continue to do. So, what about you? Do you got any fun memories or traditions you like to do on 4th of July?
Yeah, certainly a lot of fun traditions. Around this time, I try to go up to my uncle's house. They live on top of a hill to see all the fireworks in the different neighborhoods. They have a dairy farm, so it's also cool to just be out in the country and to have just peace and quiet while watching fireworks. Also, the local city parade, and then we would come back and have a little bonfire and then do chores. And so I can bet a lot of our listeners can relate with all those fun traditions and memories.
For sure. And one memory I just thought of that while you were talking, having been up on the ridge to be able to watch the kind of fireworks from all around. I had a buddy talk to me about that, and it reminded me. There was one 4th of July we flew back to Virginia on the 4th of July that night, and we didn't even think about it. But as we were flying over, the Midwest, like we got to see probably 7 or 8 fireworks displays because of just the plane going over where they were at. So that was kind of cool to have a very different perspective on a fireworks show when you're seeing it from above them compared to on the ground. So that was cool.
Yeah. All the fun memories around this time. Certainly, summer is flying by, and we're continuing to share stories here at Dairy Star about everything related to dairy. So, why don't we get into today's episode? We start today with Western Minnesota and Dakota's reporter Jenna Buick as she visited with Jill Nelson of Compass Rose Creamery. Brian and Jill Nelson, along with their son Isaac, began processing their milk and officially began selling cheese curds just over a month ago.
Is actually called the Compass Rose Star.
Okay.
That's in the, I always weirds me out because I have a Schwann's truck too, and every time I see them pull in to get my colostrum, I'm like, who's driving my truck? So that's the Compass Rose Star, and so we thought, we'd just be Compass Rose Creamery because then we can have the farm and the creamery kind of married, but not exactly the same. So if someday we get our milk from somewhere else, if we're not, Omar Farms isn't, who knows where that's gonna be. So just kind of a way to give a nod to the farm logo and the farm history, and but yet have its own name. So
tie it together.
yeah. And I like this, to me, that star just reminds me of, the Star of David or the Star of Bethlehem, and that's our guiding compass is our belief in God and Christ. And so to me that, symbolizes a lot of that as well.
Do you plan on having a storefront on the farm too, or just selling to retailers?
So right now, no, we're not going to do on the farm sales. We can do some because retail is a whole nother level of regulations. And so right now the plan is to just direct market either through farmers markets or, like people ordering online, and then we'll have a delivery route or, pickup sites or whatever that we can do. Local people can pick up here, but it's not a retail, so they order online and then, pick up or whatever. Yeah, so right now, I mean, like the first batch of cheese, most of it has gone out through the farmer's market and through just friends calling me up and saying, hey, I want so many packages or whatever. Yeah, and we just got into the Sleepy Eye Brewery, Sleepy Eye Golf Course, and Sweet Haven Tonics in New Ulm. Those are the first 3 to be carrying our product in their restaurants or in their establishments. Kind of focusing a little bit on the breweries and wineries and the places that don't have their own kitchens per se, but they, would like to have a food offering that they can do without a kitchen. So cheese curds is perfect for that. And a lot of them do frozen pizzas, but it's just another option for their clients to stay for another round of drinks because they don't have to go somewhere and get something to eat.
So what are your first products that you've created?
So right now with our first batch, we only made cheese curds. And so we started with plain chipotle, garlic, and ranch. And then just last week we added garlic dill, which we sold out of that the first farmer's market. So that's what I just finished packaging more of the garlic dill.
Improve your dairy farm process, increase profitability, and optimize man hours with help from Greenwood Silo. Greenwood Silo acknowledges that there is not a one-size-fits-all solution for the dairy industry, and they're committed to finding the best method to service your operation and create a plan for action. Using their Green Line building system, any size silo is achievable. Call Marvin at 715-267-1416 to ask your questions. That's 715-267-1416, and ask for Marvin at Greenwood Silo. You can find that story on dairystar.com and look for the headline, Milking Parlor Transformed into Cheese Facility. Our next conversation has Mark Klopacki speaking with brothers Jake and Nick Static in New Ulm, Minnesota. Jake returned to the farm in 2017, with Nick returning in 2023. The pull of the farming lifestyle drove both to making their way back to Static Farm Incorporated.
Nick and Jake Static, who recently bought the farm from their parents, Mike and Tammy, near New Ulm, Minnesota. Guys, first of all, congratulations. Talk a little bit about, was it a little nervousness or excitement when you got to take it over January 1st?
Definitely a little bit of both. There are a lot of good things, but a lot of concerns that come with it, but we're happy and eager to move forward.
Now, Jake, obviously, you've been out of high school since what, 20?
I graduated high school in 2013.
Okay.
Yep.
And why was dairy farming the career for you?
I just, I liked doing it when I was young. I really liked the cows, and after going to college at South Dakota State and coming back home, I realized that this is what I want to do. And keep farming with my family. So.
And Nick, you were working you were fixing equipment, and then you came back. What drew you back to the farm?
I really just wanted to live the farming lifestyle, and this was my opportunity to do so, and nothing compares to working and living on the farm full time.
And I know you guys have both exciting things that you see for down the road. Jake, talk a little bit about some of the genetics things that you're really excited about.
Yeah, we've been genomic testing for a few years now, and we're starting to calve in some of those ones that we first genomic tested, and we're making all of our breeding decisions based off of those genomics. So I'm excited to see how quickly we can excel our genetic profile here and how we can move forward that way.
And then you're thinking about getting a manure pusher. Talk a little bit about what you see with that and some of the other technologies that you've implemented or you're thinking about implementing.
We implemented a Lely Juno robotic feed pusher 2 years ago now, and we really like that. And now we're currently working on a manure evacuation project, and with plans of putting 2 Lely manure collectors in our 4-row freestyle barn. It would just give us a lot more labor efficiency, that we won't have to have someone scraping twice a day with a skid loader. We've visited many different farms with this technology and done a lot of research, and excited to see how it can make our current facility more efficient.
You know, you guys milk about 125 cows?
About 160.
Okay, you milk about 160 cows, and this has been in the family since 1931. How exciting is it for you to be that next generation?
It's very exciting. It's exciting to see how much the farm has progressed since we were kids, and how much Mom and Dad did to make it what it is today, and excited to keep carrying that on and see how we can progress things here.
And Nick, one final question for you. You two, obviously you're 50-50 with your brother on this. Just talk a little bit about some of the future things you have for the farm, and just on your level of excitement to be that 4th generation here too.
Well, obviously I'm excited about the new technology, whether it be genomics or equipment in the barn, and excited to see how, when even in the last 20-30 years, how much the production of the crops and the cows have gone up, and what will come in the future, what's possible. And so we're excited.
Congratulations, fellas. Thank you.
Join Greenwood Silo at Wisconsin Farm Tech Days, July 14th through the 16th, as they demonstrate the 5 building blocks for maximizing sugar production and retention in conjunction with the field demo, featuring multiple experts from the forage world. See Greenwood Silo at the event stage on Tuesday and Wednesday at 2 p.m. and Thursday at 10 a.m. That's July 14th through the 16th at Wisconsin Farm Tech Days. See you there.
Certainly, I think many of our listeners can relate to that. The pull and just the good feeling of farming with your family and being outside. So many great things when you're able to farm and to kind of take it on with your own ideas. You can get that story online under the headline Making It Their Own on dairystar.com. Our third story today has our Central Wisconsin reporter Danielle Nauman speaking with Dick Beardsley. Beardsley, a native of northern Minnesota, began running marathons at the age of 21, and in 1982 ran the best race of his life, breaking the American record, but finishing 1.6 seconds behind the winner.
My entire football career lasted less than an hour. And so a buddy of mine, a few days later, said, well, you ought to go out for the cross-country team. Well, I didn't even know what a cross-country team was. And so I thought, he told me what it was. And I thought, well, that sounds like it might be kind of fun. So I showed up for my first day of practice, and the coach says, all right, boys, we're going to do the around-the-block run. Now, I'd never run before. I seen some cows and stuff that got through the fence, but I thought, surely I can keep up with my teammates for around the block. Well, anyhow, long story short, the around the block run was actually 3.2 miles long, and I had to walk the last mile. And by the time I got back to the high school parking lot, all my coach and my teammates had already showered and gone home. But honestly, I had this such a sense of accomplishment when I got done. I didn't know really how far I ran or walked, but I thought, my gosh. And so, we didn't have a very big team, so nobody got cut or anything. And I showed up for all the practices, ran on the weekends when I didn't even have to. And thankfully, I didn't make the varsity squad. I was on the JV team, so I didn't earn a letter jacket, but then I'd kind of fallen in love with it. And so that summer between my junior and senior year, I ran every single day that summer. I'm not kidding you. I didn't miss a day. Now, I didn't run real far, but I ran every day. And I came back for my senior year and a year later, and we did that same around the block run. And then this time, though, everybody, instead of finishing in front of me, they all finished behind me. And but saying that, I never qualified for a state meet in Minnesota in cross country or track, but I went to a small ag college, the University of Minnesota at Waseca, and they have to have a program there. And, my high school coach, he didn't really know much about running. In fact, he even smoked cigarettes, but he made it fun. And then I got into college, and my college coach, John Fulkrod, who he's in his mid-80s now, I'm still very close to, and I'll never forget this, because when I got into college, I could run, up to 10,000 meters, and it seemed like the further I went, the better I was able to do. And I remember one day he was timing me when all the other guys had gone in, doing some extra, like 400-meter repeats along the edge of a cornfield, and we got done, and we're walking back into the men's locker room, and Coach Fulkrod put his arm around me, and he says, Dick, I really believe you can become as good of a runner as you want to be. And I never, ever forgot that. But I never thought running would take me to where it did. And there were many times when
You're like the real life Forrest Gump.
yeah. And there were many times, though, Danielle, that I felt like giving up and it's not worth it. And then I would remember what Coach Fulkrod said. So, no, I was blessed with great coaches. Every one of them I had brought me to another level. And it was a fun ride while it lasted. That's for sure.
So what made you decide to start doing marathons?
So I was 21 when I ran my first one, and I thought, well, gosh, I can run 10,000 meters pretty good. Maybe if I run further. So I ran my very first one was the Pavo Nurmi Marathon up in Hurley, Wisconsin, up there pretty near the Michigan border. And I think my longest run was like an 8-miler. I finished, but I swore I would never do one again. I hurt so bad. Well, then a couple months later, the City of Lakes Marathon, which was a prelude to what the Twin Cities Marathon is, I thought, well, I'll run that. And honest to gosh, when I got done with that, I swore, that's it. I'm never doing it again. Well, then, when bad things happen, you kind of forget about them after a while. And I thought, if I'm going to want to be a little bit successful at this marathoning, I got to train for the marathon. And so I just started putting in more miles and long runs. And then it just kind of took off. And like I said, I was in the right place at the right time with great coaches. And it was a lot of fun.
So reading about the Boston Marathon, you were second by less than 2 seconds.
Yes.
And a motorcycle cut you off?
The Boston Marathon back then, by tradition, started at 12 noon, and it was 75 degrees and no clouds. It was hotter in the 80s. And me and the guy named Alberto Salazar, he was the world record holder, and him and I had broken away from everybody and were just by ourselves at about 17 miles. And I was in the lead, but he was right off my back. And so there's about 4 miles of hills you got to go through, and I tried to break them on those hills, and I couldn't. And then with about 900 meters to go, I had maybe a 5-yard lead on him, and I thought, well, I knew he didn't have a great finishing kick at the end, but I knew it was better than mine. So I thought and my legs were dead at that point, but the crowds. Back then, there was no fencing. There was over 2 million spectators that day on the course. There were 20 deep on each side, and there was barely room for us to run. And we had about 8 Massachusetts state troopers kind of in a V in front of us, trying to keep the crowd back. Well, with about 900 meters to go, I put in a hard surge, and I got a terrible cramp in my right hamstring. I mean, it was a knot, and it literally made me come to a stop. I was hurting so bad. Well, so Salazar went flying by me, and he got about 100 meters on me, and then the state troopers, I figured they must have thought, well, Beardsley's done, and so they surrounded Salazar. Well, I didn't see a pothole, and I stepped in it, and I almost fell to the ground, but when I almost fell, it jerked my leg, and it popped the knot out. So now I had my stride back, and so we're coming up, it's called Hereford Street, and we get to the top of Hereford Street, and back then you took a left-hand turn on what was called Ring Road, and then it was about 150 meters to the finish line. And so I am flying, and I am coming up on Salazar, and I'm just about ready to catch him. Well, there was 2 or 3 state troopers that turned to the right, and so they blocked me off, and I had to go around them. But I got around him. I've never, ever used that as an excuse. I got around him and got back up to Salazar with about 100 meters to go. And then he started his kick a stride before I did, and that's how it finished.
Okay.
He beat me by 1.6 seconds.
Oh, so close.
Hearing him retell that story in that interview was just awesome. Like, I appreciated it, of just knowing like kind of what his thought process was going through at that time. Like, you can find the video on YouTube. Danielle sent us that video to see the kind of recap of it, and it was just an incredible race for him, and awesome to see that he had that dairy background as well. And you can find that story in our Pride in Our Dairy Roots section if you look for the headline, "The Race of a Lifetime," on dairystar.com. We wrap up today's episode with a conversation with Olivia Lulich, the 2026 Miss Wisconsin USA. Lulich, the ag teacher and FFA advisor at Viroqua area schools in Wisconsin, spent her summers milking cows, and lessons learned in the show ring helped prepare her for the pageant competition. Olivia, you were named Miss Wisconsin USA. Can you talk a little bit about what your ties to agriculture and the dairy industry are specifically?
I grew up in the agriculture industry from raising and showing beef cattle and market sheep, but actually both my grandparents were dairy farmers. So I spent a lot of my summers milking cows, taking care of calves, and that's what really instilled this love and passion for agriculture at such a young age. And because of those roots in the industry and because of 4-H and FFA, I really fell in love with the industry. And that's why I went to Iowa State and said, I'm going to be an agriculture teacher. I want to continue to inspire that next generation of leaders to fall in love with the industry that I did and that got to raise me. And that's exactly what I get to do now, is be an agriculture education teacher in Viroqua, an FFA advisor, and now as Miss Wisconsin USA, continuing to take those agricultural roots and get to spread that message with everyone across the United States.
That's awesome, and obviously super important for us being from the dairy state, being able to have that representation of agriculture, and obviously that's really important for us at the Dairy Star, and I'm sure it feels like it's very important to you as well. And then what were your thoughts when they announced you as Miss Wisconsin USA?
You know, it's very similar to showing dairy cattle or going to any sort of livestock show. You never really know what the judges are thinking that day. So honestly, just super excited, obviously very humbled. It's been a dream of mine to be Miss Wisconsin USA and to go on to Miss USA for 18 years of my life. It's something so many people work up to doing and set goals to do. So a lot of excitement. It's also very overwhelming at first because you get a lot of things thrown at you right away, but just super grateful to represent my home state and of course bring that agriculture light. You know, it's not something that's very commonly seen in the pageant industry. So kind of diversifying their palette and what a pageant girl, quote unquote, is representing.
Like you said, you mentioned you were an ag major at ISU. You're teaching ag at Viroqua. How do you hope that this platform can help you educate a wider audience than just those that are sitting in your classroom?
Social media has been the biggest key of being Miss Wisconsin USA, and I think that's something we continue to see really growing and expanding. And as Miss Wisconsin USA, getting to do Ag Fact Fridays, promoting the agriculture industry in a light that impacts people all across social media. I'm so lucky to have been given this platform, this title that has thousands of followers from all across the world. So being able to educate and take that time to educate the importance of agriculture, while yes, I get to do that every day in the classroom, what a greater and wider audience that the Crown and Sash is able to execute it to.
this was announced kind of in front of your school, wasn't it? You did have an assembly for you to announce it.
Yes, my administration, my superintendent was super excited for me. And, we were already celebrating students, it's last day of school. Everybody's excited because it's the last day of school. But we're celebrating sports at the end of the year, the big hoorah last thing. And it was super cool. My FA officer team kind of pulled together and was able to welcome me and announce me. So it was super fun to get to visit actually all the schools. So elementary, middle, high school, getting to talk about what this opportunity looks like, how it can impact them. But also just to put in perspective for students that you can still go for your dreams and chase your goals even after high school, right? Life doesn't end once you graduate. So really educating and pushing that motivation on a student.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say, like, what can your students kind of take from that? And you kind of echoed it there. It's like you can have your goals and your expectations, but there are things to think about after high school at that point, right?
I think, yes. And a lot of students tend to forget, right? Life does exist after high school or out of the four walls of the school building. So it might not be college. It may be college. And whatever that looks like, whatever those goals are, that they are still really attainable if you continue to work hard to do so. So making sure we're keeping that at the forefront of students' minds, especially at the end of the school year as they head into summer.
And this was announced end of May, correct?
End of May, yes.
Okay. All right. So how have you been able to balance, and it might say, thankfully, it was probably at the end of the year. So can you talk a little bit about your balancing, kind of preparing for next year, or maybe you're just finishing this school year out with what the responsibilities of Miss Wisconsin USA are going to be like for you?
I will say I'm very grateful it was the end of the school year because that was quite a lot. But this summer we'll be super busy out and about. But it's kind of a balancing act. I'm still planning on going back to teaching next year as well. So we'll still be Miss Wisconsin USA and still being an agriculture teacher. So it'll be a lot to juggle. But planning, fitting things in on the weekends will always be key. The summer is going to be the busiest as we head into Miss USA, which will be nationally televised. That will be right at the end of August. So really gearing up, promoting agriculture, promoting a mission, but understanding that it is a job 365 days out of the year. However, still managing the full-time job that actually gets to pay me.
You can read that article on dairystar.com. Look for the headline From Classroom to Crowned. And you can watch her compete for Miss USA in August. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, Greenwood Silo. Improve your daily farm process, increase profitability, and optimize man hours with help from Greenwood Silo.
Join them at Wisconsin Farm Tech Days, July 14th through the 16th in Stratford for demonstrations, or log on to greenwoodsilo.com to see the future of silo unloaders. Now be sure to check out the latest issue of the Dairy Star with these and plenty of other stories. A special section for this issue includes our Past, Present, Future tab. We talked with farmers ranging from 6 years old to 94 years old about their experience in the dairy industry.
What I think would be really cool if, I know in some leadership classes is if you write a letter to yourself when you're 18 or 20 years old and you open it 5 years down the road to see the growth. And I can see the growth in a lot of these dairy farmers from being 6 years old to, in their upper 80s and 90s. So I just think that's really cool to see the years of knowledge, especially
right.
in that tab.
Very different perspectives coming from, obviously the 6-year-old to the 94 is the drastic end of it, but like even just the middle years of like where their mindset was maybe early compared to where it is now. And like you said, the lessons they learned along the way it's really interesting.
Certainly. Well, this issue's Our Side of the Fence talks to people from around our readership area about their involvement in dairy promotions. We spoke about why they feel dairy promotion is important, some of the most successful campaigns, and even what kind of promotion that they would put together if they had an unlimited budget. Always cool to see where marketing dollars are going to spread the information about all things dairy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's good to see a different creativity and different levels, you said, of just what kind of marketing people can employ, and that having the unlimited budget and that hypothetical situation where some of those answers were pretty cool to read and figure out how they would handle things. We also spoke with Cody Jean Quart of Lazy J Dairy, host of this year's Door County Breakfast on the Farm. Cody and his family milk 160 cows near Luxembourg on Door County's southern edge. They'll be hosting Breakfast on the Farm July 5th from 6 a.m. to 11:30 as 4 generations team up to help make the family farm function.
I was able to get to a few breakfasts this year, so always fun to celebrate June Dairy Month on the farm. We also have an article in the Dairy Star about combining agriculture production with solar energy on the same land. Attendees at the Midwest Farm Energy Conference near Morris, Minnesota, learned from Brad Hines, a dairy professor in the Department of Animal Science at the University of Minnesota, presented on the benefits of agrolitics and how it can strengthen farm productivity. You can find many more stories in the latest Dairy Star newspaper. Then come back to Dairy Delivery on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts to hear more of those stories. Make sure to rate and subscribe, and if you or someone you know is interested in being featured in the Dairy Star or on Dairy Delivery, reach out at dairydelivery@dairystar.com so we can continue sharing all dairy all the time.